Hi, okay, so I am the anonymous therapist basically, and this is my first video. And today I've decided that I'll be targeting a very common issue amongst human beings, which we all know as low self-esteem basically, or self-sabotage. So we all know that low self-esteem can be as a result of someone growing up with them constantly receiving negative comments, or could just be as a result of loneliness. And then, so for someone who has, well, for someone who isn't emotionally intelligent, it is very much possible for them to develop low self-esteem since they don't have control of their emotions, which means that they are very much open to different opinions and thoughts. And because they are not emotionally stable, the negative thoughts would dominate over the positive thoughts basically. So them having low self-esteem doesn't just mean that someone having low self-esteem basically doesn't mean that they they don't just hate themselves basically, and it also means that they believe that, oh, they don't deserve love, they don't even value their thoughts, they don't value their feelings, they don't value their opinions, they don't value their interests, they don't value their goals, and they also, most importantly, don't value their objectives on things. And then it doesn't just impact how they feel about themselves or how they treat themselves. It also affects how they go after the things they want in life. But because they have low self-esteem, they end up not going after it because they're like, oh, I'm not up to this. Like, for example, someone with low self-esteem now, let's call her Emily. So basically, Emily has always wanted to travel around Europe basically after high school, and then all of a sudden, basically, a lot of thoughts they keep swarming in, and then they just overtake her, and then she's like, oh, I can't do this, the money, I can't work for this, I'm not up to it, I can't do this. Emily, you are low, you are incompetent, you are just basically a lot of negative thoughts swarm around her, and then they overtake her, and then she decides that, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it because I just can't do it basically. And then Emily gives up, and then she ends up not achieving what she's always wanted basically. So that's an example of basically someone with low self-esteem not being able to go after their goals. Now, we all know that someone has low self-esteem because they begin to show like certain signs. So how do we know these signs basically? Well, one, we know that for someone who has low self-esteem, they have a really low level of confidence basically, and then the low self-esteem plays a role in causing their lack of confidence, and then it will also contribute to worsening their poor self-esteem already. And then because they are not confident in themselves and their abilities, it means that they are not allowed to know that they can only rely on themselves and to manage different situations, because someone with low self-esteem would basically think that, oh, in this certain situation I can't manage, I can't rely on myself to manage this because I am not up to it basically. And it also means that since they have a low level of confidence, it means that they also have very low self-trust, meaning that they don't feel comfortable and confident navigating many different things they might encounter in life, which means that they are also very afraid of what life may throw at them basically because they have low self-esteem and they are not bold. Another sign again that we notice people who have low self-esteem is that they lack control basically. They possess lack of control on every single situation they find themselves, because they feel like, oh, I don't have control over this thing, I don't have control over my life, I don't have control of what is happening to me right now. And then this can be due to the feeling that they have, and they this leads to them having little ability to create changes in themselves or in the world at large basically. And then because they have an external locus of control, they feel powerless to do anything to fix their problems. Because, like, for example, if let's call the person Grayson basically. So Grayson is dealing with low self-esteem, and then there's this scholarship, and Grayson is actually a very smart person, but because of his low self-esteem, he loses the chance to win that scholarship basically, and then he feels, oh, he's out of control to change anything about the situation, and instead of not giving up and going after another scholarship, he basically just gives up and makes up the excuse that, oh, I don't have control over this thing or over my situation basically. Another common sign that you notice in these people with low self-esteem is that they tend to compare themselves with others basically. They have negative, they tend to show a lot of negative social comparison basically. And then social comparison can actually serve as a positive function, and it can enhance a person's sense of self. But comparing yourself to others can also damage a person's self-esteem. And then for someone who has low self-esteem, they are more likely to engage in what is known as upward social comparison, or comparing themselves to people who they think are better than themselves. And it isn't actually, upward social comparison isn't actually always bad. For example, now these comparisons, they can be a source of information and inspiration for improvement. Like for someone who feels that, oh, Tony, look at well, Tony, or oh, let's not call the guy Tony, but for someone, for example, like someone, let's call him Tony basically, and then Tony is a basketballer, is a professional basketballer, and then compares himself to someone like Kobe now, and like, oh, Tony, look at Tony, look at Kobe. You can be just like him basically, and then he proceeds to work harder and improve on himself basically. So another thing that can lead to negative social comparison in social media, and then that's because on social media is a platform for different people to express themselves basically, and then some people post pictures, some people post themselves on outings and on vacations at different places, and then for someone with low self-esteem, when the person is looking at this, they're not like, oh, wow, this is nice. They tend to think more than that, they're like, oh, why can't I have stuff like this? I don't deserve it anyways. They compare themselves like, I wish I was like this person, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, basically. And then people, another sign is that they have problems with asking for what they need. They always, when someone has low self-esteem, they will always struggle to ask for what they need. And then that is because they feel embarrassed, or there's a need for assistance, and then they also need support, and that's a sign, and as that's a sign that they feel that they are incompetent. And then because their self-regard is so low, someone with low self-esteem might also feel that, oh, they don't deserve the help. They'll be like, oh, I don't deserve this help that this person is offering to me basically. And then they will not also prioritize their own desires, and so they will also struggle to assert themselves when they are needed, or when they are in need basically. And then someone with those self-esteem will tend to worry a lot over, they will tend to overthink, they would even have self-doubt, they will always doubt themselves, they will never for once be like, oh, so well, what name can I use as an example? Oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this if I put my mind to it, basically. They don't believe in themselves at all. And then they always worry that they've made the wrong choice. They doubt that, oh, my opinion will differ from what others think. And then they will, instead of sticking to their choices, they will go for what everyone is saying. And then it's just, and then them going about it this way leads to a great deal of second guessing and self doubt, and then it makes it harder for people, and then this makes it harder for people with low self esteem to make decisions about their lives, and in most cases, if not dealt with immediately, it leads to them ruining their lives basically. And then they also have trouble accepting positive feedback or compliments. When you if you notice that, if you notice something, when you compliment someone with low self esteem, they try to say, oh no, I'm not like this, I'm not like that, and then they now make they now proceed again to make a negative comment, or a negative or just say something negative about themselves basically. And then when or maybe they may not even say something negative. They could just be like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Are you sure I'm like this? Are you sure I'm like that?" They basically don't believe that they are what you are calling them, and that's one thing that every that someone with low self-esteem would always do. And then they always have negative self-talk basically. Like so when I was like I have this friend, let's call her girl A basically, and then one thing I've always noticed is that when she's on her own, I hear her murmur a lot of stuff basically. But I won't disclose this person because I still care for her and I still respect her and they need to be a blonde that some say her name basically. But I noticed that when she's on her own, she tends to say a lot of stuff about herself, or she makes like little moments. Like let's say she makes a suggestion and then nobody has nobody has even said anything. Like for example, she's like, "Oh, let's all go out, let's do this thing," and then nobody has replied. And she's like, "Oh," she now murmurs privately, "Oh, I don't expect you guys to listen to me because well, I'm not worth listening to basically." That's exactly what she does, and that's an example of negative self-talk basically. And then those with low self-esteem, they cause people to focus on their flaws rather than their strengths because they're so busy talking about every single flaw that they possess. And then rather than build themselves up with positive self-talk, they always seem to have something negative to say about themselves. And and they always prefer to engage in negative self-talk. And then when things go wrong, people with this same low self-esteem, they will often blame themselves. They will find fault with some aspect of themselves. It could be their appearance, it could be their personality or their abilities basically. And they also have a fear for failure basically. They lack confidence in their abilities. And then people with low self-esteem, they will doubt their ability to basically be successful. And then because they fear failure, they also avoid challenges. They avoid and they always give up quickly. They quit immediately, or they don't even try it at all. And then this fear of failure can be seen in behaviors such as acting out when things go wrong, or looking for ways to hide feelings of inadequacy. And then people with low self-esteem, they will make a lot of excuses. They blame external factors, and they always try to downplay the importance of the task. And then they also have a poor outlook on themselves. And then low self-esteem basically causes people to feel that there is little chance that the future will be any better than the present. They always believe that, oh, this present is already bad, meaning the future would also be bad. It means they always feel like their future would always be worse, basically. And then these feelings of hopelessness can make it hard for people with low self-esteem to engage in behaviors that will bring out positive changes in their life. So now I'll be going into another another sign again, which you also know as lack of boundaries, basically. The ability to set boundaries is often established early in life, and then children who have caregivers and who show them that they are respected and valued, they are much more like able to create boundaries in adult relationships. And that's like, if you remember, I know that I said at the beginning that when someone has low self-esteem, it's usually because when they were growing up they didn't really receive a lot of good comments and all. And then because they didn't, it means that they are very much unable to set boundaries with people, and that leads to people walking over them. And then it's also create a lot of problems because the person will not respect that person's space and time. And then the lack of respect will not only add to the person's stress levels but also make them feel less valued, making the fact that they already have a low self-esteem makes it worse basically. And then they always try to please others because it is a very common symptom of low self-esteem. Because in order to gain external validation, people who don't feel good about themselves, they will go above and beyond to make sure that others are comfortable and happy. And it's not because they are trying to be selfless, it's because they want to receive validation from other people. They want people to say good stuff about them so they can feel better. When someone makes a bad comment, it makes them feel much more, it makes them feel much more belittled than they already feel basically. And then pleasing others often involves neglecting their own needs. They forget that, oh, they need they need to take care of themselves too, because they're so busy looking for validation from other people instead of looking for validation from themselves. And then this person with low self-esteem ends up say yes to things they may not even want to do, and then they will now feel guilty again about failing, which will eventually lead them to saying yes to basically everything everyone asks them to do. Now, the impact of low self-esteem is, there's a long list, but I'll just mention it like if you we have anxiety, because the person will be basically stressed out. They're trying to please people. They are already dealing with with a low level of confidence. They even engage in self-sabotage. So a lot of anxiety is involved with people who have low self-esteem. And then they also have eating disorders. Like for someone who is too thin, they will feel, and people will they will feel that, oh, I'm too thin, I need to eat more. And then they basically eat a lot more than any normal person would do. Or someone who feels they're fat begin, they basically just stop eating. And then they could also develop another sickness, bulimia, by forcing themselves to vomit, basically because they feel they are too fat. We also have emotional distress. The person is not happy because they already have low self-esteem. That's another impact, because the person is very sad, the person is very low. And then they also have internet addiction, because and not, like I said before, negative social comparison can also come from social media. Basically, the person will be too busy looking at watching other people live their lives instead of them to live their lives. They are basically watching other people live their lives, and they have a lot of panic attacks basically. And then they also engage in a lot of risky behaviors without caring about the consequences. But that's because they have a very low self-esteem. They even have sometimes they also have, some of them may have social anxiety disorder, and then this is as a result of very low level of confidence basically, and they are basically just stressed basically. And then it may even play a role in the development of certain mental health conditions such as depression. And then research has really shown that people with low self-esteem, they are most likely, they are more likely basically to be at risk of suicidal thinking basically. So another effect of low self-esteem is that the person will find it so difficult to achieve their goals and form healthy and supportive relationships, which leads to them forming relationships with people that don't even give two shits about them basically. And then it might also make the person more sensitive to criticism or rejection, because they already have low self-esteem. They are looking for validation from other people. So when someone says, makes just one little comment, well, one little negative comment, well, no negative comment is ever little. So let me just say a negative comment. Just makes passes one negative comment to them. They, of course, they will be very sensitive and they will take it to heart immediately. But someone with high self-esteem is likely to shake off the negative feedback, and then but someone with poor self-value will take it very personally, basically. So um there are different ways of coping and building up your self-esteem, and then the most important thing to do first of all is to forgive yourself. If for someone with low self-esteem, they will tend to ruminate over their mistakes, their failures, but then the best way for them to like literally build their self-esteem is to learn how to forgive themselves. And they should also do things that that make them happy. They should focus on happy thoughts, thoughts that make them happy. They should do what they feel is right. Basically, they should not depend on other people to on what to do. Basically, they should do what makes them happy. They should stay around people that make them happy. This doesn't necessarily have to be your friends. It doesn't have to be your family. It could be just someone that makes you feel at home. Basically, and they should also practice self-acceptance basically. And it doesn't mean that they will not have goals or things that they might want to work on changing, but it's important for them to recognize that they are worthy of love and esteem from both themselves and from others. And then they should also value themselves. They should spend time thinking about the things they have accomplished. And if they haven't accomplished things at all, they should they should tabulate a list of things that they want to achieve, not what everybody wants to achieve, but what's really in their heart, what do they want to achieve basically. And then they should also make a list of things that they have done that they are proud of. If they have not done anything they are proud of, then they should make a list of things they want to do, like I said before. And then they should allow themselves to appreciate their worth and their talents. And then if they feel they don't have time, then they should go on a talent hunt, basically. And then they should also learn as they are appreciating themselves, they should not forget that they should not make any comparisons, and they should not focus on areas that they have to improve on, basically. And then they should it's also advisable that they stay physically active, basically. And then they should another advisable thing is that they keep a gratitude journal, and they should also challenge their negative thoughts. And then they should also volunteer to help others, not because they want to receive validation, not because they seek validation, but because this is actually coming from their hearts as a good task. And then they should also remember that everyone makes mistakes, basically. And then they should always celebrate their accomplishments, both the big and the small, basically. So, I hope that with all I have said, that those out there with low self-esteem are touched by what I said. I hope they picked. I hope that you're watching this have picked a thing or two. And remember one thing: you only you can be true to yourself. No one can change you. Only you can change yourself. So you don't wait for anyone to give you a push to do anything you want. Only you can give yourself a push. Only you can make yourself do that thing. The only thing someone can do is maybe say something could make you that could make you start to think about what you want to do. But the only thing someone can do, the only ability others have the only ability others have towards you is the fact that they can say something or do something to trigger the fact that you want to do that thing. You're the only one that can push yourself. You're the only one that can be true to yourself. No one, not even your family members, not even your closest friend, not even the closest person to you can be true to you except yourself. You're the only person that can be true to yourself. Please like and subscribe. And I hope you guys liked this video. Thank you.